Hello and welcome to this Yin for Spring practice. Whilst I'm calling it that, you can really practice it any time of the year, but we will be targeting primarily the liver and the gallbladder lines. However, there is a little bit of heart line in there as well. So it's really looking at I guess yin in a trauma-informed way, and yin that can help us with some of those emotional disturbances that can happen, or shen disturbances they're often called, when perhaps there's a bit of anxiety, a bit of stress, a bit of overwhelm in the system. So that's where we're going. Grab yourself as many props and things as you would like. You'll definitely need a bolster or pillow, maybe even a smaller cushion or pillow, perhaps even a block or two if you know you're a little bit tighter in areas. And I'm going to sit on a blanket to begin with, so have a blanket also handy. And just know that you could actually sit up on a bolster if that's more comfortable for you to begin this practice. So finding a comfortable seat to begin with. And once you've found that comfortable seat, I'll get you to just scan the room that you are practicing in. So as you scan the room, just turning your head really slowly and kind of noticing what's in this space. So for me, there's a chandelier on the ceiling. There's some artwork, some blankets, yoga chairs, yoga props. And there's the big painting of the Mount Fuji and the cherry blossoms. Just really scanning and noticing everything that's in your environment. So this act of noticing what's in our environment can help just instill a sense of safety in our nervous system. It's often what animals will do when they first come into a new environment as well. And then maybe find something in the room that's really pleasing to your gaze and keep your awareness there. And as you notice your awareness there, just notice what happens within the body. So I just noticed I did quite a big sigh. And you may do the same. It might be a bigger breath or a sigh. It's just an indication that the nervous system is kind of resetting itself, getting that sense of safety. Feeling that sense of nourishment from this pleasing item that you are looking at. And just notice how it is changing perhaps your inner landscape. Maybe there's a little less of a buzz, a hum. Perhaps things are settling down. And then bring your gaze back to face forward. And take the peace fingers of your right hand, or it could be your left if you're left-handed. You're going to draw an infinity symbol, so a sideways 8 on your forehead, or figure of 8. So you'll circle around on one side and then come up through the center, through the third eye point to circle around on the other side. You just start to get this pattern going first and try and slow it down so you're not going super fast. And it's just kind of a light touch, so not trying to scratch it into your forehead, but really just a nice little tickle. And then once you've started to get the pattern, you could either keep the eyes open or maybe you gently close the eyes. Now maybe see if you can tune your breath into this rhythm. So you might even circle around on one side as you inhale, and then circle around on the other side as you exhale. And if that feels too confusing, you don't have to do that. But just noticing this light touch, this figure of 8, this bilateral stimulation across the forehead. And again, just sensing into what's happening within the nervous system. And maybe you do another big sigh or yawn. Maybe there's a sense of softening or relaxation. And just go for about 4 more rounds, nice and slowly. Maybe the breath has now started to sync up if it wasn't before. Once you've done those 4 rounds, you can take that same hand and just wrap it around the low back and just rest it somewhere comfortable and drop your ear to the opposite shoulder. Now take that free hand and begin to stroke down the side of the neck. So we're getting into the sternocleidomastoid and the scalene muscles, all of these accessory muscles of breathing. You can often get a little bit tight if we are a little bit stressed or anxious. We tend to do a little bit more upper chest breathing, which brings the head forward. And again, as you're stroking down, this time the pressure is a little bit, I don't want to say intense, but you're applying a little bit more pressure. So it's more of a massage down rather than a tickle. And you can again maybe chime it with your breath. So as you stroke down, perhaps that's an exhalation. Almost like you're exhaling all of those worries, frustrations down into the earth. Following that movement with the hand. And self-massage can be another great way of bringing us into this moment. And particularly, again, if we're crossing the center lines. In this case, my left hand is touching the right side of my body. It can be really good for just helping the brain move those messages from right side to left side, creating a little bit more integration between the parts that like to kind of be hyper-focused and those that are much better at seeing a broader picture, a wider perspective. And then keep the head turned to one side, but just rest the hand now. And you could either just stay there in stillness, or perhaps there's a gentle nod of the chin towards the chest and then lifting the chin back up. So I'm staying on that side lying position and just moving the chin slightly forwards and back. And it can be as small as you like. It doesn't have to be a big motion. You might sense and feel a little bit more of that tension or that stretch sensation along the side of the neck. A little bit of movement at the beginning of our yin practice can just help us to then settle when we come into the longer holds. And just helping to disperse some of that energy. Good. And then use your hand to lift the head up, release the arm, and just take a little check-in, eyes opened or closed, noticing how the sides of the body might feel and if they feel a little different. And just remembering, if you need to, you can always locate that item in the room that brought you nourishment, that sense of safety, and fix your gaze on that as you take this awareness of the body. And then gently switch over which leg is in front. And take the arm around the side of the body, drop your ear to the shoulder, and then use the opposite hand to stroke down. And finding those big ropey muscles in the side of the neck and giving them a really good self-massage. Noticing any tender spots. Again, seeing if maybe the exhale can be timed with the downward stroke, so there's that sense of letting go. Encouraging tension, worries, frustrations down into the earth. We don't need them. And then release the hand onto the knee. Keep the head turned to the side and just choose, do you want to stay with the head still? Or maybe do that little rocking action, a little nod down and up. And it doesn't have to be a big movement, it could be really subtle. Sometimes even the smallest movement can create quite a significant change in the body. And particularly if we move with awareness, we're slow and mindful about what we're doing. You might even notice that the breath is synced up with your movement again. And then use your hand to lift the head up and release the other hand. And again, just take a little check-in if you need to find that item in your room. And notice, how am I feeling now? Then I'm going to move off my blanket for this next one, but you may want to stay on your blanket. Coming into a half dragonfly. So if you fold your one leg in, so in this case it's my left leg in and my right leg is out long. Then choose a prop. So it might be a bolster like this, it might be a bolster like that, it might even be your blocks. And you could have it either this way around, you could maybe set it up a little higher with your blocks and bolsters underneath, so you've got a higher surface to lean onto. But essentially find the shape that's going to work for you to lean forward. Now I like to bring my forearms onto the surface so I don't have to hold myself up so much. You may even want something underneath that knee just to kind of give it a little bit of support. So give yourself a little bit of time to play around, find what works. And then come into the shape. And then to begin with, again, just to kind of allow us this moment to settle, we're going to take a little finger tap exercise. So you'll touch the thumb to the index finger, then the middle finger, then the ring finger, then the pinky finger, and then begin that again. So it's just a nice, slow, mindful tap. As you do that, really noticing the sensation of the touch. Noticing if you feel into one hand a little bit more than the other. And you may even start to sync up your breath with this as well, if that feels like it's naturally happening. Nothing is forced, we're just observing what's happening in the body as I create this little bit of mudra, of movement, while I hold this half dragonfly. And then you have the option to either keep going with this, if this really helps you to stay present and in your body. Or if you would like, you can let that go and just find some stillness. So, option is yours. And maybe you try out the stillness and then notice that perhaps there's that want or desire to kind of fidget a little, in which case this could be a nice thing to come back to. It's a nice way to just keep us here rather than disconnecting. And just notice perhaps there's that desire to perhaps go a little deeper, just for the last 30 seconds, maybe minute or so. Or maybe there's a desire to pull back a little. Just really honoring where you're at and whether you need to move out of the pose or move deeper into the pose. Remembering we're not trying to find 100%. We're staying at that 60 to 70% place and just allowing the time and gravity to do the rest of the work. If you have brought your hands down perhaps onto the floor, notice the texture of the floor, the carpet, the wood. And slowly walk your hands back. And this time take your bolster either in front of the leg, or it might even go on top of the thigh or behind the leg, and come into a side bend. So I like to put my elbow on the bolster and then rest my head in my hands, and then take the other hand and just cup the base of the skull. You might like to have the arm outstretched, or maybe even the arm wrapped around the body as we did earlier. So try out all three, see which one resonates for you, which one will be comfortable enough for you to stay. So you don't want something that is so uncomfortable that it's going to make you want to fidget and move out. And then you could either keep your eyes open and maybe find that spot in the room again that helps you feel nourished. Or you could gently close the eyes if that feels comfortable for you in this moment. And the lateral lines of the body relating to our gallbladder, which is paired with the liver, and is all about the smooth flow of qi around the body. When qi is not flowing so well, it's when we get agitation, we get irritation, frustration, anger, some of our PMS symptoms. It can also affect the heart and that ability for the Shen, the spirit, to rest back in a comfortable heart space for our good night's sleep. And if at any stage your top arm starts to get uncomfortable, you're welcome to rest it back alongside you or even behind you. And just remember, you've always got choice. If it starts to get uncomfortable through the side body, maybe you find another cushion and lift yourself up a little higher. So never feeling like you have to stay, particularly if it's really uncomfortable. when there is imbalance also with the liver and the gallbladder, we get that sense of indecision, inability sometimes to make a choice. And sometimes in our life we have been forced to do things where we weren't given a choice, we weren't allowed a choice. It's really important for us to have choice, to really listen to our body and be kind and compassionate to our body, knowing when is too much, when to back off, when we're invited to go a little deeper. Go very carefully, press your way up. Just move the props out of the way. Make your way down onto your back for a little rebound. Legs can be out long or knees bent, but just take a moment to really land, to feel your body on the earth, to feel the parts of your body connecting a little heavier, to notice those parts of the body that have been in the stretch, and perhaps feeling some of the fluid, the energy, the blood moving back into those areas. Notice how the breath is moving, the cadence of the breath, the depth of it. Maybe even sensing how the energy is flowing through one side of your body in comparison to the other. And if you don't feel that, that's totally fine as well. Then very carefully roll yourself over to one side. Make your way up. And we'll start all of that on the other side. So this time my right knee is coming in. And then again, you might need to stack that bolster up with a few props so you've got something to lean into. It's a little bit higher. You might need to take the blanket again underneath the knee, or maybe a little bit more prop underneath the knee. So just finding what feels right in your body as you start to fold forward. You might even need something underneath this knee just to give it some support. So lots and lots of options. Really find the place where you can come to that sort of 60 to 70%, feeling a little bit of sensation perhaps through this outer hip and back region. You might even feel something in this outer hip and perhaps down through the inner thigh. So depending on where the tension lines are in your body, we're all going to feel this in slightly different places. And then once you're in position, perhaps you're ready to just find stillness. Or if you need that little bit of movement, taking that mudra again through the fingertips. So just lightly tapping. So it gives you a little bit of stimulation through these meridian lines that run through the fingers as well. And also that little bit of sensory input, which can help us just to stay really present. Either choosing to keep up this movement through the fingertips, or perhaps you're ready to just let it settle. And just check in. Is the body inviting you a little deeper, or is it asking you to back off? Really tune into those signals that the body is giving you, and then make your way either out or in a little deeper. And perhaps you experiment with going deeper and then find that the body is saying a hard no to that, in which case give yourself permission to come back. And if you go to this slightly deeper place, perhaps the arms rest on the floor, now you can take notice of the texture of the carpet, maybe the heat of the floor, maybe increased sensation through those areas that we identified at the beginning. Maybe something has shifted with your breath. Just remembering you can always come back to that object in the room if you need that little bit of anchoring. And very slowly start to walk your hands back in. And grab your bolster and bring it along the inside of the leg. You may need to take out some props, depending on what you had in place. And then rest your head into your hand and then choose, do you want to take the hand behind the head? Do you want to reach it away? Or do you want to reach it all the way behind? So just playing around with perhaps each of those positions and then choosing the one that feels right for you. Again, you have the options, you have the choice. And just knowing that if you made a choice and then partway through you're like, I don't like this anymore, you have the option to also change. And I think so often in life we think, well, there's the great indecision, great anxiety about making a choice, as if once we've made that choice, everything else is off the table. But just remembering a choice takes us on a certain direction. We always have the ability to switch directions and make a new choice. And whatever is arising, just holding it with compassion. And sometimes the stillness can evoke some feelings, some memories, some sensations. Just holding whatever arises with compassion, with loving kindness. And very slowly make your way back up. And again, move the bolster to one side. Lay yourself down on your back and take a little check in and notice. So really sensing the body on the ground, sensing those areas that have been compressed and now opened, sensing those areas that have been elongated and stretched, and now returning back to their normal length. Noticing the breath. Noticing the heaviness of the body. And draw your right knee in towards you. Grab hold of your bolster and slide it out to the left-hand side. And draw your right knee all the way over so it lands on the bolster, so supported twist. So just work out where you need that bolster to be to give heaps of support. Reach back with your right arm, and you may want that blanket or your cushion, whatever you have available, underneath that right shoulder just to give it some support. So supported twist. And then once you've found your twist, just seeing if you can relax any areas that are still feeling a little bit tight, that are perhaps holding on. I always notice there's perhaps one butt cheek that is a little bit clenched, or the forehead, or maybe even the jaw. So just kind of scan the body, see which areas are holding tension unnecessarily. Just invite that sense of letting go. So these next two poses will be slightly longer holds. And just know that you have the option to just come out if you need to. You can continue with that little mudra with the fingers if that helps you, just to stay really present and in your body. And whatever is arising, again, just holding it with compassion. No need to push it away or judge or criticize it. And you have about 1 more minute. I'm just seeing if there's anywhere in the body that could soften a little more. And moving really slowly, just roll back onto your back. Remove any items that were underneath your shoulder. And just let yourself lie flat. And again, really tune into the differences on the sides of the body. And one side might feel a little softer or closer to the floor, maybe longer. One side might feel plumper. On one side, you might just have more awareness. These little moments of tuning in, helping to enhance our interoception and also proprioception. It helps build a better map of the body within the brain. Also helps us to tune in to how energy moves, how sensation is felt in the body. So we become better at knowing ourselves. And greater awareness builds greater self-compassion. Bend your left knee in. Maybe shuffle the hips a little bit over to the left side of your mat. And take the bolster over onto the right side. And then bring that left knee up and over, land it on the bolster, just where you need it to be. Maybe find that blanket if you need it underneath your left shoulder. And use the first, few 30 seconds or so of the shape to really give yourself permission to change it if you need to find what really is supportive and is going to allow you to hold the shape. Become really aware of your inner landscape, your inner environment. So we don't want the sensation to be so intense that we're just really struggling to stay in it. That little bit of sensation that helps us to be here, to notice, to witness, to build that better map of the body, and to provide that little sense of stimulation through the meridian lines. So that energy flows much freer. And if there is that tendency to want to fidget, you can come back to that little mudra. Notice if there's anywhere that could soften a little more. We've got about 1 more minute. And just use that minute to soften as much as you can, to let go. And very slowly making your way back onto your back. Again, taking that rebound to really notice the body. The parts that feel heavy, the parts that feel light, the way you contact the earth, the areas that sit away from the earth. Maybe even noticing how the temperature of the air brushes against your skin. And bend your knees and place your feet on the floor. And take your bolster and slide it underneath your pelvis for supported bridge. So make sure it is on the pelvis, not on the low back. So right down where the buttocks crease is, that flat part of the spine. And then you can choose to either walk the feet a little wider and let your knees knock in towards each other, or to keep the feet kind of parallel to each other. And you can choose whether you keep the arms resting alongside, or maybe you take the arms up, reach them back behind you, or maybe even clasp opposite elbows. So again, just tuning in and making that choice based on what feels right in your body. And remembering that if you make that choice and then you decide, actually this doesn't feel so good anymore, you always have the option to make a new choice. This mild inversion also helping to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest functions of the body. Part of the nervous system that also brings us back to homeostasis, to balance. When we are in this world that emphasizes sympathetic nervous system activation, chronic low-grade stress, it can be really hard to come back into balance. And even in practices like this, it can be really hard to give ourselves permission to slow down, to be still. So perhaps noticing if any of those sort of stories are coming up for you. Again, just acknowledge, hold it with compassion.
If you would like, you can gently creep the toes a little further forward, not too far though. So we're not going for straight legs. We're just going until we feel a little bit more tug in the front of the hips. You might even curl the tailbone a little bit more towards the knees. So again, less is more. I'm just going for that gentle bit of stimulation. A place where we can comfortably stay. If you did creep the toes forward, just gently sliding the feet back. The arms are above you, perhaps resting them alongside the body. And then you have the option to either bring the soles of your feet together here, so it's supported bridge with our butterfly legs, or you can slide that bolster down a little so that your butt rests on the floor and the bolster just supports the knees flopping out to the side in this variation of supported butterfly. So I prefer the bolster underneath my knees, so it really allows me to relax and let go. If you want a little bit more of that stimulation through the meridians, through the inner thighs, you might like that supported bridge. But again, finding that place that feels nurturing, nourishing, that you can stay. And then bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your heart space. And just start to feel the touch of your hands. It might be the temperature of your hands. And notice as you feel the touch of your hands, perhaps the movement of your ribs and your belly with your breath. And just with the exhale, you might apply a gentle pressure down with the hands. Just that little bit of support. And just keep breathing in this way, so allowing the ribs, the belly to expand, and then that gentle pressure down as you exhale. Almost like a little hug that you're giving yourself. And touch can be a great way of anchoring us to this moment. Bringing us into our feeling, sensing body, out of the monkey mind. Release the hands from the body. Let's take a moment to notice what it feels like to have the hands off the body. And slide the bolster down to underneath the knees so you can come into your Shavasana. If you prefer to have no bolster underneath the knees, you can remove it. Or you could even lie down on your side or either on your belly or maybe even sit against the wall if that feels more supportive. If you've got that blanket still handy, you can slide it underneath your head and your neck for a little bit of support, or maybe even cover the body if you're feeling a little bit chilly after the practice. And just notice again the parts of your body contacting the floor or the bolster or the blanket. Notice the parts of your body that rest away from the floor. Notice the caress of the breeze, the air temperature against your skin. Notice the movement of your breath. And starting from your toes, just let your toes relax and soften. The heels, the ankles. Feel the shin bones and the calf muscles soften and let go. Feel the knees relax and soften. Feel the muscles on the thigh, the front and the backs of the thighs softening, letting go. Feel the weight of the pelvis and the lower legs, the whole lower body feeling heavy, soft, relaxed. The belly soft, the breath easeful. And the front of the chest melting towards the back body. The front of the shoulders melting towards the earth. The arms relaxed, the fingers soft, the throat relaxed, the jaw, the tongue moving away from the roof of the mouth, the forehead relaxing, softening, letting go, and the eyes deep back into the sockets. Whole body relaxed, whole body letting go. And staying here for a couple of moments in silence, seeping in this relaxation, this letting go. And if you have the time, perhaps you stay resting. And if you need to get about the rest of your day, just start to open and close the fists and scrunch and open the toes. And then try doing alternate. So as you squeeze your right fist, open your left toes. And then squeeze your left fist and open your right toes. And let's do this a couple more times, side to side. So we're just waking up that bilateral chain. And then maybe take a big stretch, reach out through toes, out through fingers. However feels right for you to just wake up the body. Maybe some ankle circles, little rock of the head. And gently roll on to whichever side feels most comfortable. And make your way up to a seat. And just cross the hands over and grab opposite shoulders and give yourself a little massage down the arms. Again, just bringing yourself back into the body, into this moment, and into your day. I hope you've enjoyed that. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Hari Om Tat Sat.